a playlist original.
All right, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Back to the Blockbuster with your host Gaius and Jackson. Looking ahead to 2024 and our most anticipated, but also it's a big day for our boy Jackson because he has been on the podcast as a regular co-host for a full year. I guess as of this recording, it's January 15th, a year
Right.
and 2 days.
Nice. Yes.
Officially.
And a big thanks is due for you. You've been championing me as your partner and co-host now for a full year, and it has been nothing but absolute cohesion and unity since I've joined. For those that don't really know what the experience is like behind the scenes, Gaius is literally the easiest person to work with and to accommodate, and he accommodates me all the time. And just makes this, the reason I'm here a year later is because he's so fun to work with and makes this process so easy and fun. It's not always, sometimes there's things that happen out of our control that make things not fun, but having a partner like you makes it all the more fun to work with and deal with the consequences when things do come up. And I'm here because of you, so thanks. And you've been giving me lots of praise and like hyping up this anniversary episode, which makes me feel good. I feel very appreciated around here, and I hope it's very much reciprocal because I love doing what we do together. So thank you very much.
Yeah, for sure, man. This is it's been a very fun, it went by fast. That
it
year.
Really did.
Went by really fast.
Scary fast.
For those, for those who might be just listening for the first time, how this kind of came about was there's a co-host situation where I was looking for another one, and then I had a friend that was like, no, just like make the show around you, and then you'll just like switch out hosts like every week. And I was like, all right, I can try to do that. And at the end of that year, I had people lined up who are really good, and people that had been guests on the show before, and thought about asking them, but I knew just based on conversations with them that they didn't have the time to do it week after week. But you had commented on some stuff on G Reels, and I was like, oh well, maybe I'll ask that guy and see if he wants to at least guess.
That's literally what I would have been, was that guy. This guy that like commented every so often on stuff. Yeah.
Because our interactions were there weren't a lot, guys. There were like maybe a few. I might respond to a comment that he left on a post like every now and then, but like there was not much meat there at all. Not a lot of conversations going on. But it was around that time when I was like, all right, might as well, because like I'm looking for people to just hop on as guests, and he did. And actually, your first episode as a guest was December 29th, 2022.
Right.
We talked about the DC Studios shakeup. That is when Wonder Woman 3 got scrapped during that week. Henry Cavill was no longer returning as Superman after being teased at the end of Black Adam. We also talked about the box office potential for Avatar: The Way of Water, the Golden Globe nominations, and trailers for Scream 6, Barbie, and Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. That was what
we all covered in my first episode.
And that first guest spot episode. Now that episode was that episode. Now we're trying to make these shorter, and we've been doing a pretty good job. That episode was 2 hours and 22 minutes, but you talked for 2 hours and 22 minutes with me.
And I remember it flew by too.
And I was like, well, that went really well. And at that time, I already lined up like the whole end of the year. Like, it was already done. Like, just because like his episode got posted on the 29th, there was a lot of stuff going on where I was scheduling the last few episodes for the year, similar to how we did this year with a bunch of us. We recorded a lot of episodes to kind of not have a gap. And I did that last year as well. But I was like, hey, I think I found like the person, and I don't think I want to rotate people in and out every week. And my buddies were like, all right, you don't know him. So
it's very much a gamble that you took, which I commend you for going out on that limb, because who would have known? I mean, yeah, we had that one episode together and it went great, but like, yeah, I commend you for, taking that leap of faith. I'm very glad. I was honored. It was amazing. And to be a year later, it's surreal. I still have as much fun, for the record, as I did the first time joining, and the conversations go just as fast. Honestly, this whole effort we're making in the new year to bring our episodes down is equally as much for our own sake and time as it is for you listeners that might not always have 2 hours to listen, but we could easily go on much longer than we allow ourselves to.
Yeah, it's not a problem for us having a conversation.
Definitely
we can talk a long time, and that was pretty evident the first time he guessed it. And then January 13th was like the first episode he had as a permanent co-host, and we talked about more DC drama, and we also recapped the winter box office. So we talked about Avatar: The Way of the Water and how that was performing. And we also did our most anticipated movies of 2023. So I guess it's very fitting that for your 1 year that we're doing our most anticipated. I didn't know it either. I was like, it worked out really well.
This is what I wanted to do for the anniversary, but I didn't realize this is what we did a year ago. That's weird.
Yeah, I had just looked at the date and I didn't look at the title of the episode. I was like, oh, well, that's the date, and that's his 1 year. But yeah, that is what we talked. That's what we talked about, and I'll get all the cheesy stuff out of the way first. Like I've told you before, the show became like a completely different show once you got on, and honestly, I've listened to some of those first few episodes and compared them to what they are like now, and they sound the same, and I mean that in a good way, where it's just like it was like right away.
The ground running together, yeah.
It was very much. There wasn't like my friend Kayla and a few other people. They're like, you didn't even have like a chemistry test. I was like, well, the guest spot was like the chemistry test. I guess I don't know. But didn't need one. It was like right away. We had a rhythm, and I told you from the beginning, like, this show is also yours. I think you were like, that's nice of you, but I'm just gonna I'm along for the ride. We'll see we'll see what happens.
Right.
But you got to the swing of things pretty early. I was like, this is what the news is. We have anniversary episodes. If there's anything else you want to throw in, you can throw it in. And it's kind of been like that ever since, where it's just we just bounce ideas off each other. And it's been like I said before, again, I've never had a because at this point it's not just a partnership. Like, we're friends. We've like someone asked me like are you guys actually like friends? And I was like, I don't think we could do this a whole year and not get to know each other.
Exactly. That was bound to happen.
Yeah, and have it just be like business. And you're like, yeah, oh well, I'll talk to you next week. Peace. No, not like that. But it's a very unconventional friendship. We've never hung out in person.
That's right. I mean, we are separated by the continent, but that'll inevitably happen.
Yeah, it will eventually happen. But yeah, I mean, I just go with it, man. Like at this point, it's like, hey, all friendships happen in the craziest places and circumstances, and I'm just
least expect them sometimes. So
yeah. So I've accepted it, and it's been a great partnership, and I'm looking forward to what the year is going to bring, because we have like a lot of ideas about how we want to shape the show. And even though he was on for a full year already, it really feels like we're kind of not starting over. I think that's a wrong phrase for it, but it feels like a little bit of a reset.
Rebuild. Yeah, exactly. I mean, which is just the nature of the new year. That's a lot of what you see, and that's no exception for the show. But yeah, no, I'm excited. It brings opportunity to finesse some things and see what's working, see what we want to change up, which is exciting. And I'm just happy to be along for the ride. So thanks, for continuing to have me back every week. I know you said it's a partnership, and we're both going to be at the table, but still, this is something that you started. I'm grateful to be along for it, and grateful for the audience that tunes in every week to listen to us jabber about movie news. So thank you again. Other than us too, like, the show wouldn't be what it is without the people that are tuning in. So a lot of thanks to yourself and to everybody listening now. So I feel, very special, very happy to be back. And like you said, very much looking forward to the year ahead, which is why I wanted to make this episode about our most anticipated movies of 2024. Was surprised when you mentioned off camera there that I guess last year we only did our top five. Yeah, with a couple of honorable mentions. So today will be 10 plus honorable mentions.
Because of the little 5-minute break that we had in between recording our last episode and this one, I was able to pull up my list. So I do have my
great.
What I picked. I have what I picked, and I have what you had. Actually, is it too far off for like what
is it on brand?
Kind of like what you were excited for? Yeah. Okay. Yep. So like
what do we got?
Your number last year, you were and you've maintained this the entire time. It was Oppenheimer.
Right.
You also had Dune Part 2. We didn't get that in 2023 though.
Right.
You had two Joaquin Phoenix movies, Beau is Afraid, Napoleon, and
Okay.
Killers of the Flower Moon.
Okay.
Your honorable mentions were Evil Dead Rise, The Killer, Megapolis, and Ferrari. Those were your honorable mentions.
Okay.
For
Nice.
And
Almost
we
all the
only
ones that release, I've seen all of
yeah.
them other than Dune 2 and Megalopolis.
Yeah, we didn't get those, and you actually did, see all the other ones that were your most anticipated.
Interestingly enough, just before you go into yours, so
Yeah.
Oppenheimer and The Killer are currently on my letterbox list of best of 2023. Best meaning like my favorites. Those are in the number 1 and 2 spot, and both Joaquin's movies, Beau is Afraid and Napoleon, are at the very bottom of that list, which is interesting. Not how I imagined that would go, but yeah, just a little interesting tidbit. What were your top 5?
I my top 5. Well, I'll go the top 5 first. Number 1 was Barbie. Don't know.
Okay.
I mean, I ended up liking it. It's not my favorite movie of the 2023.
Right.
Though.
On paper, though, I'd give it like that was a very exciting premise.
2 was Killers of the Flower Moon. 3 was Oppenheimer. Dune Part 2 was 4, and Scream 6 was 5.
Okay.
Now keep in mind when we did these lists, some of the movies that aren't announced at the ahead of the year are a lot of the kind of festival releases. They get picked up out of festivals, so this is why your list can't possibly change later in.
Big time.
This is just kind of like the big ones that we knew were in line that we knew were coming out. Right. Honorable mentions though. I had Maxine as an honorable mention because I thought we were getting it in 2023.
Right.
I had Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse was an honorable mention.
Nice. One of my
Guardians of the
favorites
Galaxy Volume 3 was an honorable mention. Cocaine Bear I had an honorable mention.
Okay.
And Knock at the Cabin I had as an honorable mention too.
Okay.
So it is interesting to look at what you thought you were looking forward to.
I'm glad you kept those or wrote those down. That's interesting to put into hindsight. I'll be interested to do this again next year with what we're going to get into today and see. Yeah. Crazy. I didn't realize we both had movies on our lists that did not actually release in 2023, which is disappointing. I think for the sake of the list today, I'm just going to carry those over. I'm not going to use those Megalopolis I guess that should be an honorable mention, but I wanted to free up my list to include movies that we hadn't previously talked about, so I'll be covering those today.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah.
And we'll see how this looks this time in 2025 if we're gonna be if it's gonna be as accurate. But it's your day, so I feel like if you want to go through your list first.
Sure. May as well. So as we mentioned, we'll be looking at our top 10 most anticipated movies to be released, potentially anyway, in 2024. As we learned from last year, this might not always be the case. I don't have mine. I don't know about you, how you want to do yours. I don't have mine in any particular order of excitement. Like there's some I'm more excited for.
I didn't. I tried to do it.
I couldn't do it.
I stressed myself out. So I was like, I'm just so excited for all of these.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how I really do.
I will kick it off by saying Dune Part 2. I know I am contradicting myself from a few moments earlier, but that was one of my most anticipated for 2023. It was tragically delayed back in September. Yeah, exactly. Releasing March 1st, so I'll just get that out of the way now. That's definitely one of my most anticipated. At the opposite end of the year, Ridley Scott has his long-awaited sequel to Gladiator coming out. He's been a director who's still at his age. He's in, I think he's early to mid 80s, still putting out fantastic epic and scope movies. And his last Sword and Sandals epic was 2021 with The Last Duel. That was insanely awesome. Held up great on rewatch. I did love that movie. So for him to returning to Gladiator, couldn't be happier. I like the cast. We got Denzel and Paul Mescal in there, so very excited to see what they bring to that. And before this, I don't think I ever would have asked for the Gladiator sequel. I think that movie is great as a one-off.
I would either.
I think he's, the
cast is great, movie. And you got we'll see.
Next up, and this is going to be a common theme. A lot of my movies here are sequels or prequels, or in some vein.
There's a reason for that.
Yeah,
there is a reason for that.
but I have the second Joker movie. I guess its working title is Joker Folie à Deux, returning with Joaquin Phoenix, Lady Gaga playing Harley Quinn in that movie, Todd Phillips directing it again. I really like the first one. I think, the detractors who say it's just Taxi Driver and King of Comedy, I think that's fair to say. That being said, I love what Todd Phillips did with that character in that movie. It was a $1 billion release for 2019. Which is crazy that the sequel's 5 years later. That's quite insane.
Well, we weren't supposed to get one. I remember when that Joker came out, they were like, Todd Phillips was like, no, this is a one-off. This is, they were like,
yes.
When your movie grosses $1 billion, I guess
hard
minds
to
change.
Yeah. Yep. But excited for that. I know it's going to be a little interesting to see what they do with this movie. It is a musical. I had some friends in a group chat kind of like mentioning that the other day. They just found out. One of them was like kind of upset that
were they
they
mad?
just discovered. And I was like, hey man, give it some credit. You never know. Like, there's a lot of great musicals out there. I think it's a creative approach, but I don't think I was really getting through to them. However, I'm very excited for it. Next up, Furiosa. Cannot wait for that movie. Been pining for some more Mad Max since 2016's Fury Road. So this is a prequel to that with Anya Taylor-Joy in the title role. Yeah. I mean, that's a match made in heaven. Cannot wait for George Miller's Furiosa whenever that comes out. I don't have release dates for any of these. I know vaguely when they're coming out, but Furiosa is first half of the year, I think.
It's a Memorial Day weekend.
May. Okay, great, awesome.
I have a lot of these on my list too, so I'll piggyback on the release date.
Okay, perfect. I'm sure a few of these will come up on yours too, some more. I think I have a two-way tie for my secret most anticipated movies. I know I said I wasn't putting these in an order, but the first of those two would have to be Robert Eggers' Nosferatu, which is coming out. I do know this release date. That's coming out Christmas Day, 2024. Yep. I cannot wait. He's been one of my favorite directors working. I'd say like with the release of The Northman in 2022 solidified that because he had those two awesome hits right out the gate with The Witch and The Lighthouse, both of which I think are fantastic. And of those like new age directors that have only 2 or 3 movies out right now, like the Jordan Peele's, Ari Aster's, and Robert Eggers, he's in that number 1 spot for me. Everything he's made, I've thoroughly loved. And Nosferatu is an awesome character for those that might not be familiar. Basically like Germany's response to Dracula. And then the only Nosferatu, F.W. Murnau, director of the original in 1922, I think it was 1920 something. I haven't seen his classic version, but Werner Herzog remade it in 1979. And that movie is phenomenal. I actually rewatched that during spooky season. So for Robert Eggers to be giving this to us this year is fantastic. And he had teased this, or he had mentioned that he wanted to make this movie when The Witch came out, which was like 2015. So this is long awaited. This is 9 years later. Really, have you
ever seen Shadow of the Vampire? The one with
it's about the making, right?
Of it,
of Herzog's version, right?
Funny
you bring that up. Cam brought that over as a potential option to watch the other day, but we ended up going with Anatomy of a Fall. But I will that'll probably be the movie I get in before Nosferatu towards the end of the year, because that sounds like too much fun to pass up.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Have you seen it?
Yeah, it's pretty good. Okay, and Willem Dafoe is amazing in it.
Does he play Klaus Kinski, or does he play like an original character?
He plays the vampire role, like the act, he I believe he got nominated for it. I want to just.
When did this come out?
2000.
Oh my God.
Best actor in a supporting role. He was nominated for best supporting actor for the movie.
Okay.
And he already has a very unique face, so it wasn't a lot to make him look the part.
I think he's born for that role. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Willem Dafoe is in Robert Eggers' Nosferatu too. I don't remember the character's name, but I think he's like the Van Helsing of this version.
Everything comes full circle.
Yeah, that's actually crazy coincidence right there. My second, they're tied for number 1 most anticipated, even though I'm not playing by those rules, is a movie that I don't know I had that much faith in until more news came out about it, but that would be Fede Alvarez's Alien Romulus. I'm a massive Alien
we have
fan.
so many the same movies on our list. That's hilarious.
Okay, I'm glad
and
that's
we,
I'm so sorry.
We didn't even like talk about it before.
No, we did.
Really,
I literally have no idea what you're about to say. So sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you for letting me go first.
Oh yeah, no, okay, go ahead.
I copied you. I think. I mean, I'm one of those fans. I'm an Alien Covenant apologist. I know people. Not everyone was huge. Alien fans weren't huge on that movie, but like that, Ridley Scott gave us in that movie what I wanted since Aliens. So was super thrilled with that. I hope, and Fede Alvarez not shy from using gallons and gallons of fake blood and gore in his movies, as his Evil Dead movie showed us. And then even though it's scaled back in a different sort of horror, his like claustrophobic Don't Breathe from, when was that, 2015, 2016 was fantastic too.
There,
I literally don't know what he's done since then. I can't name any of his movies after Don't Breathe.
Did he do Evil Dead? Did he do that remake?
That was before.
Oh, you mentioned it. Before.
Yeah,
you're
2013.
Right. And I think he has a writing credit on the sequel to Don't Breathe, which was problematic.
I
did not.
I didn't see it, but I didn't need to.
I didn't like the direction that took, but he's a good director though. So
yeah, I'm very excited to see what he brings us. I think he's like one of the few people I would like give this movie to direct. Neil Blomkamp, I think, would have been great too, and he had a spec for an Alien movie. I know he got
poor
guy out of that.
The king of the start and stop good ideas for like all these other franchise. Like Sigourney Weaver was so stoked on his Alien idea. Like she really wanted to do it.
If you ever deep dive what he had planned for that movie, it sounds like it would have been like amazing. So it's really I'm hoping that, I want all the best for Fede Alvarez's version. We get that August 16th, I think, of one of those rare release dates I actually have memorized. And it's going to be, I'm also worried a little bit about that release date. That is kind of like a have not.
Oh, the
summer.
The dog days of summer.
As we saw with the last voyage of the Demeter last year.
I think this was a pivot from a streaming release to a theatrical release. So that's
okay. That's a good point. Yes. And until, and like, forgive me if I don't mean to sound like I'm shitting on her, but I didn't recognize the lead, Kaylee Spaney, until Priscilla came out last year. So until I recognized her name from that movie, like I thought this was a cast of like quote unquote nobodies, which isn't a bad thing.
Unknowns.
We got some recognition there after her role as Priscilla Presley last year. So I think that'll do good things for that movie. So yeah, very excited for that. Quickly get through the rest of these. Damien Leone's Terrifier 3 comes out this year around Halloween time, though it's Christmas setting, right? Or do I have that backwards?
Yeah, I believe it's a Christmas setting. I think you're right, though.
Christmas setting, but October release, right? Not vice versa. Okay.
Yeah.
Very excited for that. Terrifier 1 and 2 are unlike anything else. You've seen both, right? You're a fan?
I have seen both. I love them, even though the second one was long.
But
fun.
Longer than it needed to be, but and he's got a bigger budget this time around. That guy can really stretch the dollar, so really excited to see Terrifier 3. I get this is a tentative. We were discussing this in our last episode in the news column, but Mickey 17, Bong Joon-ho's movie, that was just pulled from its April or March
29th. Yeah.
So it's currently
undated.
Yeah.
We're thinking it might get a fall release. We're thinking it could get a fall
still
release.
On my list of most anticipated. Bring it. Love Bong Joon-ho. Love Robert Pattinson, what he's been doing lately. And my next two, before I get to my honorable mentions, Rose Glass's next movie. She did Saint Maud in 2021, which I really liked. Her new movie Love Lies Bleeding had a trailer release a month or two ago, and I was so impressed by it. I really liked what I saw. It's got Kristen Stewart. I couldn't get Kristen Bell out of my head for some reason. Kristen Stewart, thank you. And I recognize the other lead, and I can't remember her name. It's not the girl from The Mummy, is it? And Kingsman. Sophia Boutella, is it her?
No, her name is.
I don't recognize her name.
Yeah, she's new. Maybe she's new. I'm seeing what else she's in. She was in Manchester by the Sea. She played Sandy.
Okay, I don't remember that role, but I love that movie.
And she's on a lot of TV.
Okay.
But also her name, and Dave Franco is also in it as well, and Jenna Malone. And Ed Harris.
And Ed Harris. Ed Harris looks crazy with that wig he's wearing, the long wispy hair. Anyway, Love Lies Bleeding looks like it's tailor-made. I can't remember if it's A24 Neon, but one of those indie studios.
I think it's
going to be. Yeah, I think it is, but I could be wrong.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know much about it yet. It seems like it's a big genre mashup, but very excited for that. That trailer caught me by surprise. Rose Glass liked what she did in her debut. Which brings me to my last one, Alex Garland's Civil War, which is going to be insane, I think. Very excited for that. The trailer that came out is phenomenal. I think someone made a point about, is it responsible to make a movie like this at this particular time in American, the consciousness of divided America right now? I think this could be seen as one of those movies that sows discord in the population, but definitely riffing on themes current in America right now. And I think that's part of why I'm so excited to see it. And the scale of this movie just looks incredible too.
I think it's their it's an A24 movie. I think it's their most expensive one to date so far.
Nice.
I think they said it's like a $65-70 million budget, which is pretty big for them.
Jeez,
I'm just glad that runtime was wrong, because there was a runtime that people thought it was supposed to be like super long, and you were like, "Nah, why not?" I was like, "Well, that's a little long, man."
It was on the longer side, but I was okay with that when it got cut. I think the actual runtime is half of what was originally
half of what that was.
It's like an hour and a half, right? But it was originally 3 hours.
I think 145 at the most.
Okay, which is actually a great length.
Yeah, and then I think the original one that got leaked was over 3 hours. I was like, no, we don't need that.
So I was just curious. I didn't know if that was a complete mix-up on IMDb's behalf, or if that was original runtime and it's been cut down since then. Do you know any insight?
I think that was a mix-up, because they tried to, once they realized that people were sharing it a lot on social media and complaining about it, they tried to fix it right away. Like, hey guys, no psych, it's not that long.
Okay. Well, I think the nature of that story demands a longer runtime. I would even think sub 2 hours for a plot about America ripping itself in half is really short, but whatever. I trust the vision. I can't wait for that movie to come out, and it's March, I think.
Yeah, or April. I believe April. Oh yeah, April 26th. Yes.
Oh, fantastic, great. So Civil War rounds out my top 10 most anticipated. I've got 2 honorable mentions, although last minute when I was making this, I think I would sub Challengers, Luca Guadagnino's next movie that was delayed.
Honorable mention.
I think I would take that out of I think I would replace Joker for that, but I had already made my list when I discovered that. So but really excited for Challengers. Comes out, I don't even know when that movie's.
I believe I think it's within weeks of Dune, so it's gonna be a big Zendaya month.
Exactly. Should be riding a high.
No. The same weekend as Civil War, April 26th.
Oh, okay, great. They'll be competing.
I'm seeing Challengers first.
I don't know what else.
Just throwing it out there.
Yeah. And my last honorable mention, I neglected to look at which Coen brothers directing this. I knew at one point, now I'm blanking, but one of the Coen brothers, I think it might be Ethan, Drive-Away Dolls, and it's his own movie. They're not directing it together. But yeah, honorable mention there. I can't remember which one. I should have just looked it up, but
I got you. Ethan.
It is Ethan. Okay, great.
Ethan
Coen's Drive-Away Dolls looks great. Looking forward to it. Love anything those brothers do. Wish they were making movies together still, but looks like they have, kind of in the vein of the Safdie brothers, have separated.
Random cast too in this. Coleman Domingo, Pedro Pascal, Matt Damon, Margaret Qualley, Beanie Feldstein. Got a lot of decent people.
Yeah, looks pretty sweet. There is a trailer out. It's been out for a bit.
Yeah, I have not seen it. I need to go look.
Yeah, definitely.
I haven't seen the trailer. Yeah.
There you go. So that's my top 10.
That is yours. Well, yeah. A lot of your stuff is on mine. So
sorry about that, brother.
No, you're good, man. They're all really good movies. So
I want to hear what you're excited for about them, though, and you'll have things to say.
Well, I put Dune Part 2. It was on my list like yours from 2023, but it got pushed because of the writer's strike. Probably the most I think the saddest of the delays from the writer's strike for me when they announced that one.
Agreed.
I'm just excited for it. I actually really love Dune. I know some people were thought it was too slow and then too long, and then some of my friends didn't even know that it was going to be split up into 2 movies, so they were very upset when it was coming to its conclusion. They're like, "Wait, it's this long, and this is not even it." Like, but
Oh my goodness.
just visually very, very good, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking forward to this one because I love the new cast additions, like Austin Butler being in it. Florence Pugh is a good addition as well. Christopher Walken's in the part 2. I also hear from people who have read the book that this section of it is more action driven. So for those that maybe were like bored by the more story driven first movie, this will be a good change for them. So that's out March 1st. I have challengers. That was like one of the first movies I wrote down. I was also looking forward to this because this is supposed to come out in September of 2023. They delayed it because of the strike. A lot of people were upset that including the director, was mad that they delayed it. But the reason they delayed it, of course, is they want their stars to promote it. And out of all the original, I forgot how many views the trailer got in its first 24 hours, but it was the most viewed trailer on YouTube in 24 hours for an original movie last year. That wasn't like a sequel, reboot, or a spinoff. And that has a lot to do probably with the premise and the cast and director. Probably the premise and the really and
the memes that came
trailer.
out about Tom Holland had me. I felt bad for the guy, like genuinely. I was in stitches with a few of them though.
but it looks good, and that trailer was great, man. That first trailer, I mean, I think it's the only one we gotten so far, but that trailer was amazing. And it was played to that kind of like remix version of that Rihanna song, like S&M. Like it was a really good, like it sold the movie well.
Yeah.
And I was really looking forward to it, but now we get to see it in 2024. I also have the Joker sequel on my list, and I think it's more because I'm intrigued by what it can be because I don't really know exactly what they're doing with it. Like you said, like you told your friends, like, "Hey, it's a musical," and they're like, "Well, what?" And I didn't really, But I also having someone like Lady Gaga be involved and it have musical elements, I think that would be interesting because she's super talented in that avenue as well as being a great actress. I think she'll be a good Harley Quinn. I know, Margot Robbie has done a lot with that role, even in mediocre movies so far. I think maybe the Suicide Squad is probably the best one she's done, and then Birds of Prey. But she, even in the movies that were weak, she was good. But I think Lady Gaga is a more than adequate
definitely
person to step in. And like I said, I'm more intrigued by the direction, especially since we weren't even supposed to get a sequel. Like they said they weren't going to make one, and now we got one. So hopefully a good story came out of that, and it's not just a money movie. It's a movie that needed to be made.
I hope so.
I'm going to pivot a little bit from how we matched just for a second. I have Deadpool 3 on here.
Okay.
The only MCU release of 2024, at least
lots to be excited for in that one.
But I'm excited because we're bringing Deadpool into the MCU for the first time after the 2 movies that were made when Fox owned the property. We're getting Hugh Jackman back as Wolverine, which should be fun. And then there's a lot of rumored X-Men cameos because this is supposed to be like a fun kind of like multiverse story, but not really taking itself too seriously like the recent multiverse stories have. There's a lot of rumored cameos like Jennifer Garner coming back as Elektra, who she played Elektra in 2003's Daredevil with Ben Affleck, and there's also other X-Men cameos. They said James Marsden is a rumored, so is Famke Jensen, who are all in the original like X-Men movies. I even heard Halle Berry, who was Storm in the original X-Men movies.
Okay.
Now the only problem is I want some of these to be genuinely surprising. But I don't want them to leak a lot of these before the movie comes out, and it seems like people are looking. They feel like they're looking for the leak rather than just letting this be a surprise. And I think that imagine if you could have seen Spider-Man: No Way Home and not known that Andrew Garfield or Tobey Maguire were going to be in it. Like, I didn't even have an idea that they were going to be in it. And that's kind of what this movie I think has going for it. Hopefully, not just riding on the cameo train. I hope it's like a really well written, well done movie too, but they had a lot of time to work on this one. I mean,
6 years after the second one, which is insane.
So that is a lot of time, and hopefully, with that time, there a good idea sprung from it. I also have the Alien movie on as well, Alien Romulus. I'm excited for it too. I think we're both Alien movie fans, even though sometimes they're not. Even though sometimes that franchise doesn't always treat us well.
What do you think about
first two
Covenant?
are
What are your thoughts on that movie?
I like Prometheus more.
Okay.
But I think Covenant's fine. I think it's funny, they are a result of a very fickle audience. Prometheus was too cerebral. So they were
Yes.
like, "Oh, give us."
Not enough
So they were like,
aliens
"Give
in
us,
it.
yeah, not enough aliens. Give us more action." And then that's what he did with Alien Covenant. Gave you more xenomorphs
And I
and action.
love
And
Ridley
that
for
was
doing that.
and that was a complaint from critics. Like, "Oh, there was too much of it." So,
Yeah.
but I thought they were fine. And the only one that I think is bad is Alien 3, and then Resurrection is okay. I mean, it's
I
not
can't
horrible.
remember anything about Alien Resurrection, so I have nothing to say there. But yeah, 3
Uh,
is.
Yeah. So, but I'm still looking forward to it. And like you said, Fede Alvarez is a good director, so I'm hoping that he does it justice. I also have Nosferatu on my list as well. It's so crazy because it's all the way at the end of the year. So
I know.
we have
I
a
was disappointed.
very long wait for that one, unfortunately. But I'm stoked on, of course, the director and the cast, and I will be there on Christmas Day, no matter what
Definitely.
family obligations I have to go and see it. I also have Civil War on my list too. I posted the trailer on G Reels, and then I came back actually TikTok's G Reels. Sorry,
Yes.
came back
Yes.
to a ton of notifications saying that there were 800 and something comments underneath that trailer, and I was like, "Oh, that's exciting! I wonder what they are." And you mentioned it kind of when you were describing the movie about whether or not this is the right time for it, or like the kind of the current state of what we're dealing with, like in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I read like 10 comments where I was like, I've got to type out because it got really ugly and really
Oh wow.
divisive. Yeah, it was bad, but I I'm looking forward to it. I think it's a really unique idea. And
Mm-hmm.
what I did read from some comments is that you have to realize that this is a work of fiction. This is not something that it's not happening, guys. So don't act like it's real. Like the way they're
Right.
treating it, it's almost as if it's a work of fiction, taking something like the kind of real world strife that we're in, and like putting like a fictional spin on it.
Yeah.
And I think that's completely creative, and I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to
Definitely.
what Alex Garland does. Did you see Men?
I did see Men, and
Did you like it?
I've liked everything Alex Garland has made. I did like Men. Yes, I love that it's weird and out there and makes you think. I mean, I would need a rewatch. I only saw it the one time, like to really have a cohesive,
Yeah.
memory of what it was all about. But I did come away from the movie positively. Yeah, I know it was like
Yep.
very polarizing.
It was very polarizing. I still liked it. I still liked it. But I got why. I totally got why. But I enjoyed it. And then I love Annihilation and Ex Machina, which Ex Machina has has an anniversary this year
it
too. I'm
does.
pretty sure that we will be talking about that one.
We should.
That feels like one we would both kind of love to jump into.
100%.
I also have Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes on my list.
I thought about putting that on there,
and I
just missed the cut.
I was actually on a show yesterday where we were talking about these movies, and one of the guys was concerned because there's no big stars in it, and it doesn't have Andy Serkis, but of course he won't be in it because if you haven't seen the original trilogy, you know what happens with Caesar. But I kind of like that there aren't any big stars attached. I guess it could be.
Could not as I'm speculating he is, but he would be able to be in it as a different, age, right? So. But he's not. Yeah. Sorry to cut you off.
But no, I kind of like that there aren't any big stars attached, and it's just kind of you're working more with the concept and idea, and like everything about those movies. The story was great, but also there's the the visuals and how they kind of brought all of them to life that made those movies really good.
Yeah,
I kind of like that. It could be more of like they're selling the concept rather than like, oh, let's throw like some major star in there to boost the sale or something. So that's why I'm excited for it and looking forward to it. I'm a little bit I mean, that trilogy is so good that I'm kind of there was like a little bit of concern when we were talking yesterday about whether it's necessary to continue it with another movie. I don't know where you kind of stand on that.
I don't feel one way or another. I do like the idea of the story being set generations after Caesar. So that's interesting. And humans are like completely regressed to like this non-speaking species, like the apes are completely in control of the planet. I like that aspect of that story, so I'm interested. I'm at least on board to see where it goes. I guess time will tell if it was really necessary or not. But I am definitely anticipating that movie. I'm looking forward to seeing it. I will probably use this as an excuse to rewatch the Matt Reeves trilogy. I know he didn't do all three, but it's his.
But yeah, even that first movie is still pretty good. I mean,
definitely.
Good start. Yeah. I have two more. Gladiator 2.
Nice.
I'm also excited for it. I'm more so because of the cast. I mean, Paul Mescal is great, and then Denzel Washington in something like this. And he's worked with Ridley Scott before, which will be a nice little reteam because they did American Gangster together, so that'll be fun. This movie got mentioned again on the show I was on yesterday. Some people are like, really, he's hit or miss sometimes, but mostly has been hit lately. I mean, I know you had feelings about Napoleon, but like, I really liked The Last Duel as well, and I liked House of Gucci. So I mean,
there's another one,
and he's still cranking out movies like you said at his age, and with no plans on slowing down. It seems
no.
So,
he'll die making movies for sure. And even my gripes with Napoleon aside, I blame the theatrical cut for my complaints about it. I have no doubt his director's cut, which whenever that comes out to Apple Plus, will be amazing. Just remains to be seen.
And then I also have at the end of it. Now I have some honorable mentions, but I could probably change my mind tomorrow. We'll see. But at the end, I have A Quiet Place Day 1, which is the spin-off movie for Quiet Place with Lupita Nyong'o. It's a story by John Krasinski. He's not directing this one. I loved A Quiet Place. I was like, could have been a great standalone movie. Didn't need a sequel, but they made one anyway because they made money. And then the sequel was good too.
Yeah,
I was like, all right. I mean, that was much better than they had any right to be. Like, we didn't need it, but it was good. And I'm kind of in the same boat with this, where it's like, okay, we don't need a spinoff, but if he has a good story to tell and it's just as good as those two movies, I'm perfectly okay getting it.
Yeah, the day one sequence in the second movie is phenomenal. So I'm excited to see how that plays out from different perspectives. I'm looking at when the first Quiet Place came out, 2018.
Was that 2018? Jeez,
on a good track. I know it feels that's crazy.
Jesus. And then honorable mentions. We mentioned this before about Mad Max. I have Furiosa as honorable mention. I didn't put it in the top 10 only because I haven't watched Mad Max Fury Road in a really long time. And I think I told you that when I saw it that I was like, oh, like it's fine, but I didn't get the love that everyone else had for it.
Okay.
And then you told me I should rewatch it again ahead of this one coming out. I think it looks good. But I didn't want to like oversell it. I was like, oh, I can't wait for it to come out. But
fair enough. Be honest with your list.
But I like Anya Taylor-Joy, and then Chris Hemsworth looks like he's gonna be. I love when he plays against type, and it seems like he's doing that in this. And then I also honorable mentioned Beetlejuice 2, only because I love the idea of Michael Keaton coming back in that role, and him working with Tim Burton again, and bringing back the original cast like Winona Ryder, Catherine O'Hara, and then throwing Jenna Ortega in the mix as Winona Ryder's daughter. It's pretty good casting. Seems like she's like perfect for that role.
Definitely.
This is the legacy sequels can go either way. They can be Top Gun Maverick or they can not. So hopefully this will be a good one. And I have Mickey 17 only because I don't know if it's coming out this year. Hopefully it does. They took it off the schedule, so I'll honorably mention it for now.
Fair enough.
Though I did have it on my list originally until they took it off the calendar.
Yeah. Fingers crossed that comes out later this year. Yeah, that's a great list.
But we're like in line on a lot.
Yeah, a lot of parallels for sure.
Yeah. I wanted to point out to you, because we made a point about the sequel thing. I think out of 90 something plus movies, wide releases coming out, and we don't even know what's coming out of festivals and stuff yet. So there are going to be more releases. 34 or 35 of them are sequels, reboots, spinoffs. So we always want original ideas, but we also are still going to get a ton of sequels. And we talked about this a little bit offline. It's not going to be like a major thing that we're going to discuss now, but I do kind of want to get your thoughts on that. If you're kind of like, oh, that's par for the course, or how do you feel about hearing a number that big of more sequels than reboots, spinoffs?
I mean, Hollywood it has been headed towards this creative bankruptcy for years now. This has been a complaint I remember hearing since I was in high school, which was like, Jesus, 8 years ago this year.
Yeah.
So it doesn't seem like a new phenomenon. I don't think I've ever seen it quantified, like how you just put it in there with that number of releases against how many of them are sequels and remakes and reboots and whatnot. So that is quite alarming. That is quite. Now I don't know, because I've never quantified it before, or seen it quantified. I don't know how that stacks up to previous years, but I'm gonna guess it's in line with it's like pretty similar numbers.
Yeah.
I for every year that people complain that Hollywood is running out of ideas and stuff, when you look at it from a month to month basis, yeah, it's pretty clear to see. Yeah. That being said, though, I think we are still in a place where we are getting fantastic original movies made out that still get recognition. Like I think 2022 was a great year for that, with looking at the Oscars lineup. Just that's what comes in my top of mind thinking about that. We're still getting great original movies made. But it does seem like the market, the lion's share of the box office market, does go to these sequels, remakes, spin-offs, prequels, and all that, and most of which are very good. Some are great, some are on the other side of that conversation. I don't know. I think, like, echoing Chris Nolan's comments earlier in 2023, like, it's all about balance. If we can find a balance between those types of movies with original content, I'll be happy. I don't know if we have a balance right now. It seems like it's skewed towards unoriginal stuff, but
yeah,
I mean, I don't know. It's an interesting time. We're kind of like at this first time ever in film history where a lot of these IPs have the chance to be remade or have legacy sequels. That wasn't a thing of the 80s and the 90s like it is now. So I think it's kind of like our generation, our era of filmmaking right now is kind of experimenting with this opportunity to make films by remaking and making legacy sequels with these properties from the 80s and 90s and 70s that people have loved for years. And I don't think it'll always be here. I think it'll eventually have its time. It's just in vogue to do right now, and studios want to go towards guaranteed moneymakers. And once enough of those prove not to be guaranteed moneymakers, we'll see a trend, a shift away from this trend, rather. And I'm excited for that day to come, but I don't in any way want it to seem like I don't want a world where we're getting sequels to movies that are great. It's just about balance is what I think about. That's my takeaway. And I think we need to work towards a balance, but it's easier said than done. And, we'll get there.
Yeah. I mean, sequels are an easy bet for them because, it's less of a risk, because they're like, hey, like, we can pump a lot of money into it. And if it's a familiar IP and familiar characters that they love, there's more incentive that they'll go see this, and as opposed to an original idea where they don't know who these people are or what the movie truly is. I get it. It was weird. I mean, the list was like right in front of me because I had to write about it, and it was so crazy to just be like, oh yeah. And I know we had sequels on our list too. I mean, it's like nothing wrong with it.
No,
but I mean, but there's definitely a lot. I mean, there's so many that we didn't even name, like that. I'm not really looking forward to one way or another. I mean, like we're getting a Beverly Hills Cop 4. We're getting Twister.
Like Jesus.
We're getting
Bad Boys 4.
Bad Boys 4. Yeah, and then we're getting there's a live action Snow White and all that. So there's all these different like kind of retread. Oh, right, Mufasa the Lion King. We're getting a sequel to the live action Lion King, and it's just I get where people think it's like Hollywood's a little bankrupt in that regard, where there's so many original ideas out there that probably should be discovered and kind of nurtured, and instead they go for what's easy. But yeah, it was, that was the first time I really saw the stat kind of thrown in front of me. Then I looked at it. It's very similar to other years, but I think it's just the fact that it's not slowing down. It doesn't seem like, but I mean, if more of these things fail, then they might. And like, I don't wish bad on any movie, even if I don't think it should be made, but it's, it's kind of where we're at, I guess. In the current landscape that we're in.
Now,
but
I
we
want to
got?
touch on something. I jumped the gun a little bit earlier by getting into our list here, but we did ask you guys on a poll earlier in the week. We put it out there to you guys to let us know your most anticipated movies of 2024. And we discussed we were going to open with that, and I think we just got into it. But I wanted to read
Yep.
off. We both have some options to read
Definitely.
off here. But
Yep.
for those of you that replied to the poll on our account on Instagram, Matthew De Cordova, I hope I'm saying that right. He also hit us with Dune Part 2 is his most I'm not sure, their most anticipated movie for 2024. Kibler Film Freak, he's a big friend and fan of the podcast. He says Abigail, which we got a trailer for last week, and that's Radio Silence's next
New
movie, right?
Yeah, we didn't mention it on our last episode, but it looks pretty decent. It looks fun.
Yeah, I think it's a cool premise.
That was their secret little like Universal monster movie that they were doing, and I was like, oh, that's what it is. That's cool. That it turned out to be that.
I thought it was a slick little trailer and a cool premise for a vampire movie.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's great. And then Darren Movie Reviews, another friend of the podcast, went with Wicked. So the musical adaptation of the Broadway musical coming to screens this year.
2 parts, by the way.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
But I guess necessary to split into 2 parts. I'm glad I did the episode yesterday because the girl Amanda that was on, she's a big fan of Wicked, and she said the reason that they're probably doing that is they didn't want to cut any songs, and they said the Broadway musical, it's hard to cut songs and have like the story make complete sense. So they didn't want to do that. So they decided to split it up into 2 movies. So at least it makes sense from a storytelling standpoint. I mean, I'm sure there was also financials that went into that too, but
quick aside here. The only time I've ever been to Broadway was in grade 12 on our New York City trip, and we saw it on Broadway. So I saw the Broadway production. It was fantastic. I loved it. I didn't really know.
I've never seen it. I've heard it's great though.
Yeah, it was really cool. I didn't know how I'd respond to like a play. Because back then I wasn't as like well versed in like my appreciation of art as I am now, but now I was blown away. I thought it was incredible. It was the highlight of the trip. So yeah,
nice.
Can't wait to see that.
All right, then I have some mix from G Reels and our Twitter X page as well. Hipster Zombie Joint 101, Godzilla X Kong, Big Bertha 1970, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes.
Nice.
Mrs. Mary Winchester 2005 gave us a bunch. Imaginary, Arthur the King, Back to Black, which is the Amy Winehouse movie. We got a teaser trailer for that last week. Still on the fence on it. I can't tell if it's going to be good or not. If is another movie about an imaginary friend, written I think done by John Krasinski with Ryan Reynolds.
Okay.
The Bike Riders. I wanted to put this on my list.
Shit. I forgot about that.
Well,
I would have had that on my list.
I saw this movie in 2023 because it was supposed to come out then, and I saw it early. And I got to review it early for one of the websites I work for.
What?
But then they delayed it. So I was like,
okay.
Then,
so that's why I haven't seen this. You review it.
Yeah. So that's why.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but they and I think it's coming out in June. This was positioned as like a awards movie too, and now they're releasing it in the summer, I believe.
I'm disappointed that I didn't get that. That is definitely one of my more anticipated movies of the year.
I mean, it's solid. I mean, I can't really say a lot about it other than like it's
right. Yeah, you enjoy
it. Also thank you, Tom Hardy, for like acting again because that was nice to see after a couple of Venom movies.
Well, we get another one this year, so
I know, not on my list.
I don't know why he did that to himself, but regardless, anyway.
She also has A Quiet Place Day 1, Beetlejuice 2. Tony Lee Ultimate Rocker also has Godzilla X Kong. Mark with the movies. JC has Maxine. I guess I should have honorable mentioned that.
Man, what the fuck? How did I forget that?
Well, because we talked about it last year too. Yeah, you know what?
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
We can honorable mention right now. The show's not over. We're good. We both want to see it really bad. We both want a trailer really bad too. Every bit of news about that movie, I'm like, is there a trailer yet? Nope. None at all. Spy Hards, a spy movie podcast on Twitter, gave us Furiosa and Challengers and Dune Part 2. One Mike Black History Podcast, Dune Part 2. We also have Podcast Movement that gave us Dune Part 2, Challengers Furiosa, and the Bike Riders. And then I also have Dewey Pod Monster, Terrifier 3, Quiet Place Day 1, Founders Day. That's a horror movie coming out like next week, I believe.
Okay.
Clearly a horror movie fan. And Nosferatu. So a lot of some stuff that we had on our list, and some things that that we did not. So that's very cool.
Nice big mix there.
Nice big mix. And I think now we have some questions for yourself and the show as a whole, because you didn't want me to make it just about you.
That's right. I appreciate it. You have all these though, so these are all being.
I do. I have all these
from you.
All right. So release date rewind, as you know, is Mark J. Parker. He says, "Congrats, Jackson. What's a movie you never thought you'd talk about on a podcast that you talked about on here?"
Okay, I guess I'm thinking on my toes here. Thank you, Mark, by the way, for the question. I think that would have to be, it was one that I believe he guested. Yeah, no, he was on this one with us. I have to go. The first thing that comes to mind is I still know what you did last summer. It's one that I didn't. Now, knowing Mark now and knowing the niche of movies that he has joined us on the podcast to discuss before, it makes sense now. But at the beginning of the show, like I don't think I ever would have thought that movie would come up, let alone that it would have fans of it either.
Yeah, so that was definitely a one that I hate to say made you do. It was like, hey,
no,
like
it'd be fun. And it was a fun discussion.
Because you know what's funny is that Jackson can always say no, and like I think sometimes, like, and the good thing about him is that instead of saying no, sometimes he'll be like, hey, I have an idea. Like, why don't we like maybe do this? But like, if you don't want to do that, we don't have to do that. It's never just like, no, I don't want to do it. There's always like some kind of compromise. And then when I was like, hey, it's like a light around that time. Like, do you want to do it? It's a bad movie. I let you know right away. It's not good. It wasn't good. But I was like, it'll still be fun because I think the bad ones are fun. The time to talk about too.
Yes.
And we had two other people on that were, we had Mark and he brought a guest on too. That helped with that conversation. You admittedly said you took a back seat. You were just kind of like let us kind of flow with that. And
exactly. And I like sometimes talking about a movie and not everyone be on the same page about it. I think that just leads to like, no, I don't want to say a better conversation because I don't think that, but like a different one. It lends a different perspective. And so I'm happy to be that black sheep for that movie. So that was fun. Yeah. But no, I would have anticipated I Know What You Did Last Summer maybe popping up.
Yeah, I mean, we did the year before your time. That 25th was the year before. Yeah. And right. So but yeah, that one I knew that you were going to pick that one because that was the one I think that was because we've actually, the anniversary episodes we did for your first year, we had some really unique ones, some really fun ones. I'm glad that like one of the early ones we did. I'm glad we did in Bruges because you mentioned that randomly, like during your you mentioned it during your guest episode.
How do you remember this stuff?
I know I have to for like work. I have to like remember like shit like stupid stuff like that for work. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna like do that one because he said he liked it. And that was like one of the early ones that we did. And I think that kind of established the kind of like flow and like back and forth. But yeah, our first few ones together were like it was Cloverfield, that movie. They were all like early January, February. Spring Breakers was another fun one too. Wild Things was early, and Wild Things was really early in the run too. So like the anniversary ones have been fun to go into. I want more of them to be ones that you are excited for and that you pick. I think a lot of them were driven by like me being like, oh, I want to do that one. But you have a lot of them to choose from this year. So
there's so many. So we'll have a healthy mix.
Yeah. Mark with the movies, JC. Speaking of movie anniversaries, which 1999 film that you've seen are you most looking forward to watching covering? I'm guessing for like the anniversary. So it'd be like 25th anniversaries for 1999 movies.
This is directed at both of us, I'm guessing.
Yeah. Okay, you want me to go first?
Yeah, go ahead. I'm looking at our list here, although I do have one top of mind that I'm excited for. But go ahead.
So there are fun ones like the Cruel Intentions and stuff like that. Those would be fun, but I've watched those consistently through the years, and I've seen them enough. But but I'm really excited to talk ones like Fight Club is one from '99 that I'm really excited to talk about.
Don't take all of them. Don't take all of them.
Okay. I'll do one more.
What else? I'm just teasing. What else?
And you're like, God. All right. Why don't you? All right, give me. All right, so you do one.
Okay. The one that caught my eye first was actually in a movie that I honestly think I've forgotten about over the years, that I think about every so often, is October Sky, February 19th. It turns 25.
Oh yeah, we're doing that.
I'm nostalgic about that movie.
You put it in yellow. Oh, was that you? I'm assuming that was you.
Yeah, exactly. I'm nostalgic towards that movie because my shop teacher in middle school, who's actually the father of one of my roommates' good buddies, also named Jackson. And funny story, this teacher, his name's John, and my dad's name is also John. So we're both John and Jackson, father-son combo. Weird. Anyway, there was a part of our curriculum in grade 8 in this class that Mr. Pomeroy taught us was on developing our own little rockets that we'd launch into the sky using some, I can't remember what the mechanism was, some chemical reaction sent it off into the sky. And during that part of the curriculum, he screened October Sky for us, and I was like 13. Anyway, loved that movie when we saw it. I haven't seen it since then, but I've always kept that movie in mind. So when I saw that was turning 25 this year, I was like, we got to do that. So
I remember watching it I watched it in high school, and it is one of those like truly one of those movies. It's a feel good. It makes me feel good after I watch it. I haven't watched it in a really long time. But, I do remember that being the case. Also, early Jake Gyllenhaal too.
Exactly. Right before Donnie Darko.
Yeah, that movie, and oddly enough, August Rush. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie, but also makes
in middle or in music class. Yeah, back in the day.
Like that was a nice movie. But yeah, that's a good one to look forward to. I also want American Beauty is another one.
Oh my god, I love that movie.
That'll be really fun to. It'll be interesting to look at it now in the lens of like Kevin Spacey as a weirdo.
I doubt we'll see movies like that ever made again, like considering the climate now. But that was like a pre-social media thing, and it's like, honestly, it is a creepy premise. Like, it seems unsettling, but like there's something about that movie that just has like a charm to it that I've always loved. I can't really describe it because on paper it would be like, this is gross, this is like pedophilic, but I don't know. That movie never like came across that way to me. I haven't seen it in a while though, so I'm very excited to I hope we cover that. When's that turn 25?
It's let me see when it came out. I'll look it up right now. And while I'm doing that, Kibler Film Freak wants to know what's your favorite genre and what's your favorite movie from that genre. That's a really loaded question, but like you could try to
oh my god
do it as much as that's hard.
I don't know that I've ever really asked myself what my favorite genre is. Like, if I'm gonna go, like, I think I would cop out and go broad and say like drama, but I think if I want to like narrow it down and give a juicier answer, like I've always found myself like really enjoying like dramatic war films, like not necessarily movies that are like grounded in like action and combat and gunfire, but like just like the human stories within war stories. But like when I think of my favorite movies, none really like come to mind in that genre. So like my brain, when you read that question, automatically went to The Thing and sci-fi horror. So I think I'll lean with that just for the sake of answering. It'd be like a tie between The Thing and Alien. Like those are some of my favorite movies. And I don't like consciously think of sci-fi horror as being one of my favorite genres, but when I go through my favorite movies and the movies that I consistently recommend and bring up and love to think about, a lot of them tend to be sci-fi horror. And The Thing is one of my favorite movies of all time. So, and actually glad this was brought up because I have forgotten to mention now across both of these episodes we recorded today. But today, January 15th, is the great John Carpenter's birthday on that note. So
there you go.
John Carpenter. Yes, I wanted to mention that at some point. So there we go. Thank you, Jeremy.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it in.
That's a long answer to a short question.
American Beauty came out October 1st, 1999.
Okay, hell yeah. I can't wait for that.
So we got a bit until that one comes out. Hannah Bailey. Let's see, what did she say? Hannah Bailey wants to know. What do your friends think about you being on the podcast?
I have a couple a few, not a couple, a few really supportive friends of the podcast that think it's really cool. I honestly like, I've always done this for me and not really, I don't market a whole lot of it on my actual regular like Instagram page because like I just know like who I have on there and like don't feel like I want to, if I had a page like that I was specifically like
suited
Gmails
for
that you
that.
have. Yeah.
Yeah.
As I just know the people that I have some people that have followed the podcast because I have the link in my description and like love those people for it. But I just know a lot of my Instagram like based like, not that they don't care about movies per se, but not nearly to the degree that you and I do. So I don't like, I feel like I would be like forcing stuff at them by like posting things sometimes there. But I do have a lot of friends that like think it's really cool. One of my buddies from work like brought it up to me one day, thinks it's like super neat and super cool. And like I'm always like, I just kind of like take it off the chin. I'm like, yeah, this is just something I love to do with my friend, and I love movies, and it's a really fun thing. But sometimes I'm like, I don't like, it's not something I've brought up always to people because I'm just like, it's like a hobby of mine and I'm not always out there like telling people, but I have championed the show a lot to people that I think would enjoy it and that I know. Sometimes you got to weed out like who amongst my friends would actually like care about like, you know, absorbing this sort of content. So those people that I think are going to enjoy it, I will mention it to and have lengthier discussions about.
I actually respect people's like when they're honest about like, hey, this is not something I'm into, but like I support you. My friend Corey is like that. Corey is like not a movie person, but Corey will share the posts and stuff to his friends that he knows that are.
Oh, that's awesome.
But he's not like, he's like, I'll just be honest with you, I've never listened to it, and it's nothing against like you two. I just never, it's just not my thing.
Exactly.
But I respect that you do it, and I respect that you kept it going, and that you're that far into it with that many episodes, and he knows the ups and downs of it, and he is supportive in that way. And then like you said, that's a good friend.
Yeah,
there are other friends who are very much like supportive because they like movies. But yeah, you're right. It's a different pocket. I have friends that I don't talk to you about movies at all.
Exactly. Many of my friends I don't.
You know, and that's what, you know, it's interesting hanging out here because when I can nerd out and talk about movies and do that stuff, I love it. But then there's that other side of me that's not. There's certain friends I don't discuss that with at all, and that's nice too. Almost feel like I'm like a different person when I'm hanging out with them because like
I feel like this is my true self here. Like this is what I want to be talking to people about, and I want more friends that I can talk to movies about because I have a couple buddies that like I would describe as like casual moviegoers who like enjoy movies and are like developing their tastes and watching more stuff, and I get to bounce stuff off of them. But then I got like Cam, who's like really my only friend and one of my best friends, that our relationship is what it is because we grew up together and we're good friends. But this is literally almost all of our conversations are about what we talk about right here. And he's like the other than you, like my friend over here that I actually see on a more regular basis, he's the only one, and like that's one of my strongest friendships. So I agree with you though. It's nice to be able but point being, when I'm talking to Cam and when I'm here, this is like I feel like the most authentic Jackson because this is what I love. But it is nice to not have to talk to everybody about this because I know some people don't give a shit, and that's I'm fine with that.
And I honestly just prefer you be honest. Like it's just like I'm not I don't want to force something on you. Like there's certain things that my friends are into. If I know that they are passionate about it, I'll share it. But they'll be like, I'm like, hey, I might not know anything about it. Like I can't really like, you know,
that's just being a good friend.
I can't really cheerlead that hard, but I'll share what I can. You know what I mean? So and you would think more here because like I'm in like LA County that there'd be a lot of. I could be in an environment more where there are more people discussing this stuff, but I mean, I went to film school and some of those people are really pretentious, and that's hard too. I mean, I don't really
sometimes
love
I feel
with people like that. Because they make you feel kind of like, oh, you like that, like, oh, and like you're like, all right, I'm not, am I less than you now? Like, Jesus.
I also feel sometimes, and I don't think like no one has ever said this to me to make me think this, but like I sort of get in my own head a little bit that like when I am talking to people about movies a little bit too much, like I feel like I might be coming across as pretentious or like that I like think differently if you like this movie or that. Like I don't think no one's ever said that to me, and I wouldn't do anything to make people think that way, but like sometimes like I have to restrain myself from really going all in on this conversation when somebody mentions something, because like I can go down this rabbit hole right now and they might know half of what I'm talking about, and I don't want to make people feel like intimidated or like they can't like keep up with the conversation because they just made a comment about a movie they liked. So I am weary about that and conscious of that when in relation to talking about the podcast, which is sometimes like with some people I don't mention it to because like I just know they'd be like, okay, whatever, cool, that's your thing.
Moving on.
But to wrap up that point though, my mom, I have to shout out, she's like our biggest fan. She asks me every Sunday what we're talking about, what I've watched this week. She's very supportive, so love her so much for that. And she loves the show, and she follows the channel, she follows you, and she's literally mentioned you before too about like things you've said on the show, like that, like complimenting me and like having me on like our like cheesy moments, and she loves that stuff. So
of course
she's
moms tend to
exactly. She's a big cheerleader of Back to the Blockbuster. So if she's listening, love you, Mom.
I agree. If you can find friends that really are into it, you share it, and then you just realize that some people aren't. And
my roommate too is huge. She's always asking how things are going on the show,
which is really good. And I'd rather you have people authentically listening to it, like rather than like I don't want to force anyone to like do it.
Exactly. That's been my approach.
That they don't want to do.
Yes, I wish I had a G Reels page with the following that you had, because I would live on there. But as it stands, it's great that we have that you have that channel to market
share
the show through.
Yeah, for sure. I got a few more for you. I know movies and you don't. As I heard, that's a great awesome name, by the way. As I heard Jackson mention that he had never seen Batman '89 when you guys were talking about The Flash. The film turns 35 in June. Will you be covering it as an anniversary? I would assume.
Yeah, let's do it. Yes, Pam has been on my ass about that too for a long time.
Yeah, it does turn 35 in June this year. It came out in 1989. So,
let's do it.
I remember being kind of shocked that you hadn't seen it.
I know, right? And I love the Batman character.
I was like, really? I was like, wow, that's like people love Michael Keaton in that role. So I was surprised that you hadn't seen it. But we will definitely
let's do it. That'll be awesome. I'm sure I'll get that watch in with Cam, who's been dying for me to see that, and he's a big champion of Tim Burton. So am I, actually. But yeah, that'll be. I'm glad that that was brought up. So thank you for that question. That's awesome. June. Okay.
Cinematic ramblings for both of us. Another movie anniversary related question. How do you guys plan on tackling the anniversaries this year? There are a lot of great movies that you can discuss. What's going to be your method of picking what you do talk about and what you don't talk about? I don't know. I'll answer. I'll let you go first. How you want to approach that?
We use this is we have a Google document that we Gaius, for the most part. I've added a few here, but he started it, and it's a fantastic way of keeping track of what's coming out. But basically, we have a little spreadsheet month by month, what movie's turning how old on what date. And so far, it's been like Gaius will put all the movies on there and sort of just kind of let me select which ones I would be interested in covering, with a few sprinkled in, like the odd I Know What You Did Last Summer and Wild Things that I might not have gone towards and picked myself that he wanted to cover. So there's a little bit of that in there too. But honestly, it's I'm assuming everything that's on there you're down to cover, and then you just let me select what I think I'd be down to cover too. But it's a good back and forth. And there's literally, I'm looking at it. It's open right now on my computer, and oh my god, like just in March.
I stopped at March. I mean, you added some from April. I think I saw Kill Bill Volume 2 was there. I stopped at March only because we're only in January right now. I don't have to fill it out too far. Right. But I stopped in March because I was like, this is only March, and I was looking at. So I got 3 different websites that someone gave me to do the anniversaries and look up movies and figure out how to put them down for us each month. And we decided that the anniversaries we would just do is like 10, 15, 20, 25, like that. 5 seemed too early to do like retrospective anniversary episodes on a movie that came out 5 years ago. So that's the only criteria, is that it's 10 years or more. And then I know that you're specifically asking about this year because there are a lot, and that's just 1999, but there's there is a lot that's going to come up throughout the year. We're going to do the best we can to do.
There'll be so many that we can't do just because of time constraints. It's going to be painful.
And I think the worst part is there's going to be a lot that we won't be able to do, and that's going to be disappointing for both of us not being able to
definitely
cover it. But the upside is we also have a spinoff, and some can be used as deep dives, and some can be used on the main show. But that's still, I mean, that's still like Jackson can be on the spinoff whenever he wants, but like that, he won't like. Sometimes he won't be able to be on that too. So even if I do save one for the spinoff, he won't, you know, if he really wanted to do that one. But if there's something that he really want to do, he would be like, yo, I want to do that one.
Exactly. Like spinoff, everything's free game there. And if there's something I really want to do, you'll know. In a similar vein to the spinoff, I like, and I don't know if we've ever really just mentioned this to each other before, but like my approach when like selecting movies too that I'm like down to cover, I do like to pick ones that aren't so mainstream, like that ones that like a lot of people are going to be covering these across their various podcasts and channels when they have an anniversary. So like for me, like looking at March right now, Heathers turned 35 March 31st. Like that is a movie that pretty much inspired Mean Girls, like, but not everyone goes back and watches movies from that far back. So I think that's a great one to highlight to bring people on when it turns 35 later. So like that is something that I consciously am thinking about when selecting an anniversary movie.
Freaking Mean Girls turns 20 the next month.
Yeah, that's another anniversary. Yeah, that's right.
yeah. So there's a lot to pick, and I think what we both, speaking for him, but I think we have the same idea, is that we hope we pick ones that you really hope you'd be happy to listen to us talk about, and it'll be fun,
right?
Because some of them are fun, and when they're silly, and like we can just joke around while we're doing it. And then like last year we did like Fruitvale Station, which was more serious, but I think that discussion was really good. So you do some like serious movies like that, and you kind of mix in like the serious, more kind of thought-provoking movies with the more like silly and fun, movies. And there's a lot of those that are going to be coming up in the next few months. I've tried to think of so many different ways to organize it better, and I don't know. Is the best I can.
I think this is honestly, it works. I think it's great. It's pretty clear. So I think
it's a Google document.
It works for me anyway.
But I'm glad you asked, because I knew going in, and I also agree that I'm glad that we don't always pick mainstream movies. I think we came across this problem, not really a problem, but we came across this issue last year when I think Return of the Jedi was on the list, and we thought about doing it, but it was like, well, everyone else is going to probably do it, and we ended up not covering it at all. And I saw other podcasts doing it, and a lot of them did, and we could have gotten mixed, lumped into everyone doing Return of the Jedi. Right. And so I'm glad that we don't always, like, everyone didn't do Dallas Buyers Club, and that was good for us too. So like,
exactly.
So it's fun.
I like being that podcast that might shout out the not lesser known in the case of like Dallas Buyers Club, but like maybe less attention would have been given to that movie versus another. Like I like to fill that void if we can. Some that we're going to be too excited that we want to cover a big, well-known movie, and that's absolutely fine. But I like the approach that we've taken to our anniversaries, like on a personal level. I hope that is reciprocated from the audience. But our anniversaries do pretty well. So
they do pretty well, and I mean, like, the random ones like Spring Breakers did really, really well, and I don't really know. I mean, it could be the Selena Gomez effect. I don't know. Perhaps. That's actually on Good Pods. I think on Good Pods is our second most popular episode on Good Pods, and the most popular one is still one that has old co-hosts on it. So that is a goal for this year to make.
Okay.
That my goal for this year is to have one of our episodes. I'm sure on the other platforms they have surpassed that, but Good Pods has been really good for just as an independent podcast. They really push the show out there a lot. But the discussion about the Batman is still the most popular one on Good Pods.
Yeah, and that was a huge
makes sense.
Movie. Yeah,
it's a big movie. But Spring Breakers was second. So so at least it's one with Jackson on it. So great.
Nice.
And a lot of ones that he's done with us since have ranked pretty high on Good Pods as well. And then I think I have like 2 or 3 more at Johnny Cigars. What are your ultimate goals for the podcast this year?
Okay, that feels like it's for both of us.
Yeah, for both of us.
Yeah, you want to go first?
Sure. I don't know. I mean, like I said, I like the kind of reset that we're doing, and
Yeah,
I don't want to call it like a rebrand so much. It's still like the essence of the show is the same, but we're just trying to implement different things into
yeah,
it.
exactly. We're going with the flow.
I like the idea that we're on the same page about, doing not even if there's some big thing that we need to talk about, like for the Oscar nominations, like we want to do like a short, really quick, like 30-minute episode for that to like get that out there so it's topical and done when those nominations come out. So we want to do things that are more where we don't have to wait the week to get something out
on the fly.
On the fly. But I think we've kind of protected ourselves a bit by doing the weekly kind of news roundup where it's even if the news is like a week old, we can discuss it as if it's new and it feels fresh and stuff. So I just like a lot of the like little cosmetic changes that we're making with it. And I also am looking forward to I also like this whole year I really want to, once we get everything on YouTube, really building that and having it be on top of an audio medium, being a visual one too, for people that want to find us there, because I think that is a kind of a market we haven't really tapped yet, and we can really probably do really well there.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
That's kind of what I want. And we're doing this with the physical media episode, but I would love to do more like more ideas for like interview style episodes where we talk to other people, whether like in the industry, they're JC, because there's some actor people I know. I've been afraid to reach out to them. He's like, you should reach out to them, see if they want to be on it. And like, you've interacted with some of these people, especially like in the horror movie community, like they seem like they would be down to do something like that. And I probably should not be afraid to just ask, because like, what's the worst they can do? They just say no,
right?
And like they can't do it. But yeah, I want to like talk to more people in the industry and get them on the show, and
that would be awesome.
More like kind of in-depth discussions that aren't just us. We can kind of get other authority figures on these topics to discuss them with us. And that's kind of like kind of what I see for it this year.
Definitely. If anyone listening has any connections to anybody in the industry that you could reach out to and have them on as a guest, don't be afraid to let us know. Put it out there.
For sure.
In a word, as far as my goals for the podcast for the year, I would say growth. Just reaching more people across different mediums, more interaction, more. Really, just greedy. Want more everything. I want the podcast to grow. I want it. I like you said, YouTube. Having people on like guests, that's really what I want, and just more exposure, grow our numbers. Yeah.
All right. Lancelot Dyke's my friend. Hi, Lancelot. Sorry. He wanted to know. 1 second, I gotta pull it up again. My phone just blacked out for a second. There we go. Oh, did you follow Jackson? Did you follow movie news a lot before, and have you followed it more since joining, or is it about the same?
I would say it's a little bit more. I got most of my industry news from Instagram channels like Gaius's at G Reels, and even Merc from the Movies I had followed for a couple of years before I met him on the show too, which is a small world phenomenon.
That was crazy.
Yeah. Now I find like I actually go out of my way to, again, most of it is just following like different channels and places on social media, because it's the same thing as like all these different outlets and stuff post there, but I'll even like Google News, and like most of what I interact with online honestly is movie related, because that's just like my number one biggest passion. But definitely since joining the show and like talking about it on a regular basis, aside from with Cam, because a lot of our conversations are like this, it's definitely increased a little bit. But I was genuinely like having these conversations and looking into this stuff before too, which is what makes this such a great fit. And I think why we hit the ground running so quick, because like it just two people passionate talking about what they would be talking about off camera anyway. But to summarize, it has gone up a little bit, but I was following news beforehand too. And a lot of it was coming from this guy right here from your page. That's where we interacted. Yeah.
Thank you.
It's a great channel.
And then at I think I have two more. Sorry, at David Park. This is interesting. I actually do know this question or answer, but does Canada have their own box office numbers? Are those factored in as U.S. domestic or international? I think when
I don't know. I do not know.
Actually, I think when they do domestic numbers, it is U.S. and Canada.
Okay,
it's not factored in. It's not.
I probably would have
in
guessed
as
that, but I wasn't actually sure.
Yeah, it's not factored in as international, but that is interesting. Yeah, because someone actually asked me that.
Is it
some
like
time ago? Not for this, but like
domestic's probably
yeah,
considered North America, isn't it?
North America, yeah.
Yeah,
But like
okay,
that, but when
Canada.
whenever I see like like Box Office Mojo, when they're doing the domestic totals, it does say US Canada. It splits it, but they're factored into the
we do have amount. Canada does have its own movie industry, and it's nothing to shake a stick at to Hollywood. So I guess that's somewhat of an answer. It's small, but yeah.
Wait, what is it? I mean, just like this, just the stuff they shoot out there, or just
well, I mean, like studios, smaller scale studios.
Oh, so they have their small studios, not like a Warner Brothers or like
no,
or I guess his own. Right. Yeah, okay, I get what you're saying.
A lot of it's funded by the government too. Like it's, I don't even know. I bet you Ty Ippolito would be a good person to talk to about the Canadian film industry.
Yeah, he knows a lot about.
I don't.
He's actually put us in contact with someone like a producer that he wants to have on this. I need that.
Oh shit.
Yeah, I actually
awesome.
need to message her this week because she told me to message her after the holidays and stuff.
Okay, great.
He is a very good friend of the show, and he
Ty's great.
Knows a lot, and he knows a lot of stuff. Just working as an actor and all that too. He's been like a really good person to like kind of learn a lot of tidbits for doing this stuff, and then he's also always trying to help the show too, like connecting us with different people. So.
That's awesome. I didn't know that. Nice so that's networking is very crucial. So thank you, Ty.
At Dan's Movies, did you have any reservations about joining the podcast, and did you think you would be doing it a full year? That's a good last question.
These have all been fantastic questions. I thank everybody that answered and reached out with these. Reservations, none whatsoever. In fact, I feel like people like that hear me talk about him at this point, like feel like he is an honorary member, but Cam and I, he usually factors into every anecdote I have related to movies. Yeah. We had flirted with the idea of like starting our own sometime, not really like that seriously, but like I said, he's been a friend of mine for as long as it can be. And when we kind of reconnected in high school, like we both discovered that we had this love of movies, and that created this foundation of our relationship going forward. And then over the years, we talked about how cool it would be if we had our own podcast, but I never thought I would, like, I definitely don't think I would have the willpower or know-how to like set one up on my own. So by the time this offer came around and Gaius reached out for me to guest appear on an episode, I was ecstatic because like, this is an opportunity something I've just been waiting for to happen. And then when the offer came to like join on permanently as a co-host, I didn't see that coming. I had a great time as a guest and thought, I would definitely do this again whenever called upon. But correct me if I'm wrong, Gaius, I'm pretty sure I instantly accepted and said, hell yeah.
Yeah, it was right away. There was no thought. I thought he was going to be like, let me think about it. I
was super pumped at the idea.
And he like said yes right away. And I think I was prepared to kind of throw more like, give you more reasons to want to try to join. And I was like expecting more resistance. And I was like, he just said yes.
I was super thrilled at the idea of doing this, and I love it. And I don't know if I thought at the beginning how long I would do this for, or like I didn't really have any expectations. I was just happy to see, go along with the ride. And here we are a year later and no signs of slowing down. And I'm happy to do this as long as both of us are willing to do it.
Yeah, I never thought about the timing thing either. And like, maybe it's something I should have thought about, but I never really thought like, how long will he do it for? But I think I got a good idea. Something came up where work related, he could have been really busy. And we were talking about like, he was like, well, I might not be able to do it for like this amount of time because I'll be busy doing this.
Right.
And then there was like kind of like this pause, and he was like, well, you can get someone in to like kind of step in and like be on a few episodes if I can't come on. But then you were kind of like, but like I want to come back. Like don't
Yeah.
replace me.
Right.
Like, oh no, I was like, oh no, I'm not. I didn't plan on. But I think I do then. Like, oh, he doesn't want to go anywhere. He's fine. He's
Right.
having a good time. And yeah, I trust you, and I trust the kind of your instincts on what we're doing here together. I also trust you to tell me like when something works, when something doesn't, and that's kind of what this all is all about. It's supposed to be fun. I mean, for sometimes it feels like work, but not bad in a bad way. Like you need to promote something to make it grow, and you need to like there's a lot of like that goes into it, making it grow. And I know sometimes Jackson's like, well, you do the promotion stuff more than I do and all that, but like you're still an integral part of it because they're selling both of us at this point. So
that's right.
And so that's like incredibly important as well. And I've been very happy with the first year. I've never at this point, I'm not thinking of a cutoff. I'm thinking of like how far we can make it go.
Yeah, that's my approach as well.
And it feels like, it's weird because like the podcast has been around for what's this 145? This is 100, the 145th episode, and a little over 2 years, and I think in large parts of like that this kind of new thing or the thing that we've started doing together, it doesn't feel like it's been that long. It feels like it's kind of started over in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
and I think that's kept it fresh and kept it really good and not like a chore or like something that's like, I look forward to Mondays. I look forward to like all the days we record, and I love bouncing ideas off you, even when we're not recording, like even it's like during the week. So yeah, it's been a really fun ride so far, and I'm looking forward to what's to come, my friend.
Me too. This has been a fantastic year. It's flown by. Like on some days it feels like, oh yeah, no, it seems about right. We've been doing this for a year. Then on other days I'm like, I felt like we were just doing our Cloverfield episode like a couple months ago.
I know.
But no, I've enjoyed the ride very much so far, and really appreciative of everyone that's been there supporting us along the way, both interacting with the podcast and interacting in person, supporting us in the various ways people are able to do so. It's fantastic. Honestly, these have been some fantastic questions to have been able to answer today. And thanks for treating me to my own anniversary episode, Gaius.
I know, man. I was not going to let that happen. Like, I couldn't let that go by. Like,
you gave me much advance notice when it was coming up, more so than I even paid any.
I even gave you options. I was like, do you want it to be like the guest spot or like the permanent spot? And you're like, I got time. I'll think about it. It made more sense for this though.
Yeah, agreed. And you even shouted out the guest spot anniversary too.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. All right, man.
Well, that's everything, is it not? That's all our questions. That's our top 10 most anticipated. I guess top 20, although a lot of them do overlap. Yeah. But yeah, that, guys, wraps up episode 145. It's crazy to say out loud of Back to the Blockbuster. Thank you for joining us while we looked at our most anticipated movies of 2024 and beyond. And for joining us and asking and listening to the questions to the podcast and to myself. It was been very humbling and awesome to interact with you guys in that way. And I'm very appreciated. As always, guys, if you listen to podcasts on your phone or device and you do not have the playlist app, by all means, consider downloading that. It's fantastic. And there's a lot of other great shows that you can listen to on that network too. That is available to anybody with an iPhone or an Android device. And of course, we're all over social media at the handle at Back to the Blockbuster. So tell your friends that like this sort of content where they can find us. And thanks again for tuning in to another episode of Back to the Blockbuster. We will see you guys on the next episode, and take care of yourselves.
Peace out.